David, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you again. It's been a long
Hmm.
time.
I think we established a decade, which
10
is
years.
it just
Crazy.
it just everything just seems to accelerate as you get older,
Yeah, well, I suppose that
and not in a fun bike go-kart racing car kind of way, in a oh fucking hell kind of way.
speak for yourself. Biking and go-karting and racing still good to me. I mean, although
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
you're still a decade on from organising that meet we were going to
I
do. That's not happened.
know. I know. It's just. I'll tell you what. We'll pin it down by the end of the hour.
Right, and it will be official then because it will be on
It has.
recording. So
It will have to be. We'll have to do it.
right,
So
we'll
what's
do it.
how's 26 looking?
Honestly, 26 is looking probably the busiest I'll have ever been, actually.
Mm.
It's the most I've had in the diary. Obviously, the way work profile shifts and what you do shifts and what the sort of things that you work on and gigs that you do moves around. The lead time for when you get booked, I think, changes. So
Mm.
the kind of work profile I've moved into at the moment, I've got a bit more of a lead time from when I would get called to when the gig actually is. So
Yeah.
as it stands, this year's nearly full.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which who saw
It's
that
lovely.
coming?
It was
Not
lovely in
me. Yeah.
January or February.
Yeah, I had an album to finish this month, which I submitted a couple of days ago. Uh, no one's fallen out, nobody's died, we're all still friends, and we're all happy with it. So
Good.
I'm gonna count that as a success. So um, yeah, great thing to do in January.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year's looking wicked.
Excellent. And what you do? I know you're doing the Holly Johnson. And what is this? Are you
He
still
did
doing the Odyssey?
no, I haven't been in Odyssey for a fair while now.
Okay.
But yeah, Holly's got a few bits and bobs, not as much as last year because he kind of likes to do a year on and then a year off.
Yeah.
Um, so we've only got about 15 shows this year, which are all sort of one-offs, around
Mm.
Europe.
Yeah.
I'm on the road quite extensively with Go West this year, which will be
So,
great.
yeah. Yeah.
Off to Australia
Yeah.
with them.
Nice.
An artist called Sogand, who's an Iranian female empowerment pop star who's
Hmm.
unbelievable. Few bits in with her, and then my usual bits and bobs like Tony Momrelle, I mean, the greatest
Yeah.
singer of all time ever. Um, a bit of work with Omar, and then a new thing, Sarah Jane Morris, who's kind of like tried to describe this to somebody the other day who didn't know who she was. It's like folk poetry jazz.
Okay.
Um, so that's a completely new flavour. So I start work on that in the next couple of weeks, and then we're on the road for a bit. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
all looking good. It's quite varied, which is what I've always wanted, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's that classic thing where I was always desperate for varied work, and then when you get varied work, you moan about how stressful it is because it's all different all the time. So you either haven't got it and you wish you had it, or you've got it and you wish you had a day off. So yeah,
Yeah.
how do you get a musician to moan? Give him a gig.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's yeah. I've always strived to try and do as many different things as I can. And there's a lot of people that I speak to that uh, I don't think do that. They have like a thing that they do, a niche thing that they do, and they just do that a lot. And
I
I
don't.
I I
It's
I
I
I don't know if I could do that.
well, I think my perspective changes on that depending on how. I mean, I know people. It depends, I think, what your motivation is. I know
Mm,
people who do that, who would restrict themselves out of fear, like, "Oh,
yeah.
I can't do that because I've never done it before."
Mm,
And I think that's a negative motivation for maybe being a niche. And I know people like that, and I think that would maybe limit them. But I also, on the exact other side of the coin, know people who I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm good at it. I'm confident in
yeah.
it. I'm going to turn up and I'm going to nail it. And I enjoy it. And I've got enough of it. So that's what I'm doing. And you can't really argue with that.
No.
But that's quite a positive motivation for what is essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Saying no to things that maybe are outside um, outside what you normally do. My favourite area to operate is being mildly terrified all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
It just
that's
keeps you on
always
the
been
edge, doesn't it?
just on that sort of, "Am I gonna get found out here?
Yeah,
Maybe."
yeah. May
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know, I took a show on and, I've got to play banjo, and I've never played banjo before. And so I bought one and I've just tuned it to the top 4 strings of the guitar. I thought hopefully no one will notice and I'll just get through it. It's just chords and stuff.
Right.
There's no like outrageous banjo rolls that I've got to do.
Mm.
But it's that on that right. It feel like the neck's like it's like this. It's tiny,
It's like
and
playing
I
on a snooker cue.
it is. It's just that familiarity, but it's not quite familiar enough to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think I suffer sometimes from no one's as focused on what you're doing as much as you are.
Yeah.
And, I used to get hung up on the tiniest of mistakes that I would do on, say we were doing a live album or something on the road, and tonight's the show that's being recorded.
Mm,
And, you've also got to put the show on for the people that are there, but you're conscious that you're being recorded.
mm,
And this was a few years I remember I rushed a little motif on one tune about 2/3 of the way of the gig in, and the rest of the gig was spot on, and
mm.
that's all I could think about. That was it, all
Yeah.
I could think about, and then when the record came out, you can't even hear it. It's like a and you think I think it's good to be that hyper-focused and hypercritical. It's quite a
Mm,
fatiguing place to be, and
yeah.
it doesn't it doesn't lead to an easy life or anything, but it does mean you're always pleasantly surprised, whereas I know there's another side of the coin, which is people that think, "Oh, that'll be alright. I mean, that'll
Yeah.
do, whatever," and then when it comes back, it isn't. You
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah. I'd rather be in the first camp.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So have you ever not taken anything because of fear?
I've not taken things because I didn't think I had the time to prepare adequately enough. I've
Yeah, but
definitely said no.
you've never
No, I mean, my my work profile is quite strange, I think, for someone that picked up the guitar with the motivation that I had and what drove me to want to play. And I don't, I, there's a lot of what I've been able to do professionally that I probably wouldn't have booked me on. And I don't know how I ever ended up on any list of anybody to call me ever, because my ultimate dream when I was about 15 was to be in Bon Jovi. And
Right.
I just wanted to be in bands and, you know, play big rock songs and wave my then long and luscious hair around. Um,
Yeah.
um, and after I left uni, I kind of meandered or gently strayed from that path till I ended up miles and miles and miles away from it, thinking, I don't know, I've no idea how I even got here.
Mm.
Um, and
If
what's been
you if
wonderful
you
about relatively recently is going back to getting the gig with Holly and the Go West gig is that's probably one of the first proper big touring things I've done where I've thought, "Do you know what? This links back to how I wanted to play when I was
Yeah.
15 or 16."
Yeah.
But no, I never felt like I could say no. I always felt like that if I say no, it might never happen again. I don't know what else is gonna come in because
Mm.
there's a reality of earning money. I'd left home and so I sort of said yes to everything and then worried about it later, as in suddenly thought, "Right, well,
Yeah.
I've got to learn to do this or learn to do this."
Yeah. Was there anything that sticks out that was like a you said yes to something that was the biggest hill or challenge to overcome?
Early on, there was probably 2 things. First would have been the Cue the Music gig.
Mm.
Um, the first time I ever got approached by Warren to do that, I was at uni and basically learning how to shred, really. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, that's what I was doing. That's what I wanted to do. And
James Bond, perfect. I've got all the licks for it.
yeah, and I got, I got sent. He basically said, "Oh, there's a." He was he. It wasn't as it is now. Then this was quite early on in its. Um, so my first gig with them was actually on an RAF base for the
Right.
military. Um, and I remember him going, it's a Bond show. Are you interested in playing the guitar? And I naively remember thinking, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I can do that. Whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, cool. And then, cool, it'll all be in your email. Um, and then I opened the email and there was an hour and a half's worth of score,
Yeah.
of all the incidental bits and bobs
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
remember just thinking, well, I've said yes now, so
Here
I've
I
got to
go.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was an amazing experience, that, and I did that for a few years, and then the next one that I think was um, a real imposter syndrome triggerer would have been Tony Mumrell, actually. When I
Mhm.
started working with him, he's had, I mean, his career is unbelievable, but he's got his choice of an inordinate number of the greatest guitar players in the country. He really does. And I
Mm.
started doing that. And I, predominantly at that point, or definitely at that point, was more limited in my non-rock vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, I've not a clue why I'm even here, but I'm going to do my best. And
Mm.
yeah, it just, so the it was like progress through being uncomfortable, I think, and
Yeah.
definitely being motivated by fear of failure rather than a drive to succeed, if that makes sense. It would be more of a
Yeah.
sleepless night thinking I'm gonna make a fool of myself rather
Mm.
than, "Oh my god, I wanna absolutely nail that." It was,
Yeah.
yeah. So those 2 were probably the first, or the big growing pains of, "Oh my god, what am I doing here?" And then
Yeah.
as those things, as I proved to myself that it was fine, then it kind of snowballed then, and it gave me the confidence to sort of say yes to most things. I mean, the Sogan gig's an interesting one like that. If you could tell a 15-year-old me that I'd play solo nylon string with a woman singing in Farsi in the
Mm.
Middle East, I probably would have thought that's not gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
Or I would have thought at that point that I wouldn't even have been capable of that, I don't think. But
Yeah.
here we are, and it's one of my favorite gigs that I do, and I love it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. It's like like similar to you. When I started, all I wanted to do was be an Oasis. That was all I wanted to do. That was the reason I picked up guitar. And even when I was at uni, I had absolutely no intention of it being my career or job. And then I just got a
Really?
phone call. Yeah, I just went to uni because I was like, look, I just want to. I think at the time the tutors at the ACM was Guthrie, Dave Kay, Jamie Humphreys, Pete Callard, Eric. Like it was fucking everyone. It was like essentially
It's the
guitar
golden
technique.
era, that. The
It
golden
was
era, man.
it was Guitar Techniques magazine's tutors in college. I was like, that's where I'm going to go. And so I just went there just to learn. That was it. And then I
Tell me
just
you
started
asked
getting.
Guthrie if to teach you Wonderwall, please.
I already had that down.
Right.
But yeah, then I just started getting phone calls from people, and people just started putting me forward for stuff, and it's like it's weird, and then you find yourself in an orchestra pit, like how did I fucking get here?
Yeah.
And then you're doing like remote sessions for people who are in Bahrain, and you're like how did they get hold of me? Like people dropping
Mm.
you messages on Instagram, and it's just it's odd how the paths that we end up on.
Yeah, and I think that's the excitement, actually. I think if someone could have given me a roadmap at a younger age and said, "This is what will happen all the way through this period of time,"
Mm,
it would have took it would have took some of the excitement out of it for me, I think. I think that sort of just on the edge of what am I doing at any point in time, I
mm,
really enjoy that. I find that really exhilarating and exciting. I think it gets the best out of me is hopping on different things and doing different things, because everything, regardless of how often you do it, if you've gone away and done a load of other things in between the last tour and the next one, it's fresh for you again.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you play that way and you act that way in that environment and with those people, it's a joy and it's fresh, and I think that's contagious. I think, yeah, you definitely, that's the way I think I can get the best of myself, is to do lots of different things all the time.
Mm.
All the same
Yeah.
licks though.
Always, yeah, yeah,
No, no. It's all the same licks, just in this,
yeah, just over a different chord.
yeah. No, not
So
even
how
that.
did you
E
no.
minor, mate. E minor, let's do it.
So how does like, yeah, I mean, you mentioned like you started because you wanted to be in Bon Jovi, but what was your like your early couple of years playing guitar? Like, how old were you when you started, and what was the first couple of years like?
Um, I think I was it's difficult to remember exactly what your motivations were when it happened quite gradually, I think. I first played in one of my dad's acoustics when I was about 11 or 12 or something, and
Mm,
it wasn't for me because it was, like, hard and I wasn't into it,
yeah,
and then I remember hearing some Black Sabbath records and Ozzy records, and then, that Bon Jovi Live in Wembley DVD or VHS it would have been,
yeah,
and I remember just thinking, "This looks like this is magic. I've gotta do that. Gotta
mm,
do that." So I got a Yamaha Pacifica, one of the 150 quid jobbies that came with a lead and a little
yeah, yeah, yeah,
amp and a book,
yeah,
and I learned all of Black Sabbath 1 all the way through, so I could just put the album on and play it all the way through.
yeah,
And that was sort of my first initiation, and then my cousin came round with a burnt CD that he'd ripped off a mate of Ozzy's No More Tears, and I can remember that. I think that is the moment where it went from, "I quite like playing this guitar thing," to, "I think this is what I would really like to do, actually."
mm.
And I think I'm quite lucky in that that happened really early on, so I'll have been 14 then.
Wow, okay,
Um, I wasn't very structured in terms of my musical approach, though. Uh, it
okay,
it was always I just played it at that point because I really, really loved it. There wasn't a lot of deep diving, I don't think. And then I got into bands really early on, and I was really lucky to get into a band that was quite kind of popular locally in Birmingham, and they were all in their 30s, but I was 15. So, it was all about lying about your age to play at the pub and or pub gigs and
yeah,
all of that. And I think that was the formative grounding that really that I think that in terms of my contemporaries when I got to uni, um, not blowing at my own trumpet in any way at all, but I think that's what I felt gave me a bit of an edge, or was that experience that I'd already managed to have. As in, a lot of people that I first met had never done a gig and had never,
right,
whereas I'd like toured and gone
mm,
around the country in the back of a van and done all of that, and I think it, I, that was a really valuable experience. I already knew what I wanted to do, and yeah, I think I was quite singular in it, but I've never been a I've never been massively disciplined in my practice in terms
okay,
of, not until COVID actually, but in terms of I would do things, I would wanna learn songs and I would hear things I wanna, but in terms of learning knowledge for knowledge's sake, I think I've never been good at that.
right,
It would
okay,
always be, I wanna learn that song and that technique is involved in that song, so I'll need to learn it to play that
yeah,
song, rather
okay,
than, "There's that cool technique, I'll learn it because it's cool," or, "I learn it do you know what I mean?
yeah, 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 yeah. So I think it was you that put me onto Martin a couple of years ago, and his approach to it is the opposite to that. But when
Mm,
I went to him, I had that approach that you just described. Like, if I want to learn this song, I will just learn that song, and if it's got tapping in it, then I'm going to have to learn tapping. If it's got picking in it, I'm going to have to learn picking. But when I went to him, and actually, it turned. my perspective on teaching around 180, and I'd go in there for a lesson and be like, right, warm up, put the click on, run your scales. I'd be running my scales, and we did this for like months. And I said to him, I'd really like to learn this solo, and he went, all right, okay. And I was like expecting him to go and pull a book out or whatever and
Yeah.
get this sheet. And he went, and I went, well, can we have a look at it? He went, you can, but I'm not teaching it to you. I was like, oh, he said, yeah, yeah, no, you're here for technique lessons. That's what I'm doing. If you want to go and learn repertoire, go and learn it. Like this was a few years ago. He's like, you're in your 30s. You're a grown up. Go and learn that. Go and learn that song. You don't. I'm not
That's
here to do
so
that.
that's so Martin.
And then that's when I started to think, okay, so you're here to teach me how to play guitar, not songs. And then I started to just introduce that to my students. Like I'd get them to learn how to play a song. Can you teach yourself to play a song? Okay, great. When you can do that, now I'm going to teach you how to play guitar.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
think that's
Martin's great like that, and he I'd hit a bit of a ceiling with my playing when I first met him, and he
mm,
took one look at what I was doing and was like, "Ah, you're doing that wrong." And I
yeah,
remember and I remember the discipline it took to take, because the changes in technique that he wanted me to do, that he said, "Listen, this will open it up for you. You've hit a glass ceiling. I can see you have, and I can see you're limited by it." So it was in my pick hand that of things I needed
mm,
to change. And the problem I had initially was in adopting what he'd asked me to do, and wisely said, "This is the way forward for you." I was a lot worse than I was before I saw him for about 4 or 5 months actually,
yeah, yeah,
before my new technique could do, and it very quickly, once it got to where I was before, went, "Whoa." But I
yeah,
remember ages just thinking, this just means I'm less good than I was before."
yeah. I think it was the same. Like I don't know what your issues was when you mentioned, but when I was alternate picking, I was resting the inside of my palm on the guitar, and he's like, "You need
Right.
to open that up." As soon as you open
Exactly.
that
I
up,
used to play
yep.
Yeah, I was a nightmare. I used to play with
Mm.
the round edge of the pick. So I used to play
No,
flat with the round
yeah.
edge of the pick, and I found that's how I could get, because of the, as you say, going through the string,
Hmm.
like, would cause too much resistance, so I just turned the pick round. Totally
Right.
flawed logic there. So I would sort of, like, wipe the string rather than pick through it, which had some
Yeah.
benefits in some things and was absolutely horrifically awful in others. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, turning it round, yeah, I was months just sort of feeling like I was walking with shoes on the wrong feet, but we got
Yeah.
there in the end.
Yeah. And so, like that that like you said, you weren't particularly disciplined when it came to practice. Like, what does your practice look like now, sort of post COVID? You said, you know, COVID hit, and I think for everybody, it was like, right, I get to play everything I've always wanted to because I've got no gigs, no work.
Yeah, COVID was really good for, I know COVID was a horrible experience for many, but I recorded a lot, I wrote a lot, I recorded for other people and mixed for other people, and it was a real chance, like a pause in
Mm.
time for me to refine all the things that I'd neglected or didn't have time to. And it's funny, in terms of what I practice now, my I I I have to learn things all the time, like set lists and um tunes and sound programming, and I'm recording, or I've got an online session, or so in practice for practice sake, I don't have really any time to do. I know that's probably not
Mm.
true, because if you really, really want to do it, you can always find time. So that's probably not true. But in terms of natural time where I think, do you know what, I'm going to learn this and this and this, it doesn't happen for me like that. No, I
Okay.
find myself getting better through necessity. And I think that's kind of what it's always been for me. It's the necessity of it. So taking things on, being challenged by things I need to play. Um, Because I find that in other areas of my personality as well. For instance, going to the gym or being super fit, or it the idea of being fit just to be fit, I really, really struggle to be motivated by that.
Right.
But if you said to me, "You've got to run a marathon in 8 months,"
Yeah.
there would be a reason for it. There would be a context behind the effort, and there would be a
Yeah.
target to validate that effort, and
Yeah.
so it's like that. It be so yeah. My practice is mostly just learning things that I need to play, and I don't really get my technique's okay now, and I did a fair bit of because I was into rock stuff as a kid, so by necessity, you've got to learn some of that full burn business.
Yeah.
So when you dial that back a bit, I'm in the scene that I'm in and the things that I play, I'm very rarely challenged by something that I can't actually get my fingers around. Getting my brain
Yeah.
around it might be something, but in terms of
Right.
actually on the instrument, can I actually play this? I'm not really
Mm.
faced with that anymore. But there are other areas of things that I found really, really important to get better that took a bit of time, which was things like groove and your placement of your pocket in the where you are in the band, to how to make a song sit well. So does that popping guitar line, are you sitting just ahead of
Mm.
the hats and the snare just to give it that forward motion, or is it not that kind of song? Are you just a bit
Mm.
back to give it that,
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
took a bit of work for me. Um, and I found recording really, really, really helpful for that because sometimes when you're doing that, it's difficult to be aware of that. Whereas if you actually track yourself and then listen back, it's suddenly
Mm.
like, bong, you know,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
rushing there, or I'm late here, or so yeah.
Yeah. And what about reading? How are you at reading?
I mean,
'Cause
I know you've just had Nick Fitch on the show, haven't you?
yeah.
And he's unbelievable. And I'll tell you a story. I mean, I my reading was fine years ago, fine,
Yeah.
and I did it at uni, and I obviously did that James Bond thing, but it's not something that I think's a skill of mine. It's not I'm not among the guys that you would call if that's important to you, and
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, but it's not
Mhm.
a forte of mine, and he and I got called on a session earlier this month, actually, a film session, and, it was quite late notice, not a lot of details, not a lot, so I sort of, "Okay, I'll go and yeah, alright." And then I rocked up and Nick's there and it's he and I on guitar, and what an
Mm.
absolute monster that guy is, man. Um, and it was just water off a duck's back for him, and he's playing mandolin, and he's got this, and he's got that, and and I was like, "Right, okay." Um, but yeah, it's
And
not reading, it's something that I am capable of doing. If I put a lot more time into it again, I would be fine again. But it's never the area of performance that I really felt was my USP.
yeah.
Whenever I do reading gigs, and your gig is an A4 piece of paper that that's not why I ever wanted to play, or I wanted
Yeah.
to stand with my legs as far apart as they'd go whilst like
Yeah.
fireworks go off. Like, so yeah, my reading's not amazing. It's not awful. It's probably better than I give it credit for, but yeah, I'm not among the list of people. If somebody called me and said, I need a really, really great reader, I'd say you need to call, and Nick would be a great example of someone that I would say,
Yeah.
or Adam Goldsmith, or,
Mm.
there are guys that do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find it important to learn to read?
I think the guitar's different. Because I think the whole process of learning a saxophone or whatever, especially if you go through the academic thing like at school, you never learn to play more than you can read because you learn at the
Mm.
same time. Your
Mm.
first
Okay.
lesson is like a whole note and you read it and you go, "Brrr." So your progress on the instrument is completely correspondent and intertwined to your progress with your reading. Whereas on
Okay.
guitar,
Yeah.
you can learn to play like "For the Love of God" by Steve Vai, and then if
Yeah.
someone, and you could nail it, but if someone put the score of it in front of you, you'd go very, very quiet very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's the old
Um,
adage of how do you get a guitar player to turn down? You just give him the sheet music.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
do you know, I think it's been really, I'm really, really glad I have the capability to read. On the odd, it's meant that if I couldn't read, there'd been a lot that I would have had to have said no to.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's important to not limit yourself. Um, but is it something that I think defines what I do? Absolutely not. And if I couldn't do it, I don't know how different my portfolio of work would have been. I'm not sure. Um,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
And what's your like? You've touched on it a little bit about getting better at certain areas. Like you talked about playing in the pocket, like pushing the beat, dropping back behind the beat. Like, what's your view on getting better, and how's it kind of changed over the years? Like, what matters to you now versus when you were 15 or 16?
I think when I was 15 or 16, what mattered to me was what I believed at the time would impress people,
Yeah.
um, which is maybe a bit more of the pyrotechnicsy thing, a bit more of that. Whereas now, I think with the whole how unbelievable players are, my contemporaries are that of people that I know and people that I work with, and you see them play and you hear them play, and you just think these guys are unbelievable. What I perceive as getting better now is um, just playing the right thing at the right time,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that it doesn't need, and sometimes the right thing at the right time doesn't need to be technically brilliant or a showstopper of a moment. It can just be the right thing at the right time that's
Yeah.
appropriate. And I think maybe call that growing up, maybe, I don't know. Um, but yeah, definitely just playing the stuff right.
Mm.
You
Yeah. And
know,
how about like getting? What about for other people who are kind of struggling with things like getting better with their technique or improving their musicality? What advice do you kind of offer people up? I'm sure you probably get people dropping in your comments like, "How do you play X, Y, Z?"
well, the trouble is, I don't think there's a rule of thumb. I think we're
Mm.
all so individual, and the beauty of music is absolutely individual. That what I don't I could tell you what's been relevant to me and things that inspire me, but I don't
Yeah.
think, for instance, what it's not like how I approached this particular thing that I worked on is an one size fits all for everybody. I think knowing yourself is key. I think
Mhm.
um, knowing what drives yourself, knowing how to get improvement from yourself, and for instance, I think maybe subconsciously I touched on it earlier, I think, that I'm definitely more motivated by a fear of failure than I am a lust for success.
Yeah.
And I do think there's been subconscious moments in my past where I have accepted things that I can't quite do yet on with the knowledge that it will force me to improve in that area because I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't if I didn't have to. Which
Mm.
maybe don't know how a psychologist would acknowledge that. Maybe it's an awareness of my own laziness. I don't know. Um, or it's just maybe I think I operate at my best under a bit of pressure, maybe, is what it is.
Yeah.
But there are
Mm.
other people there are people that don't operate well in that environment at all, and that's okay as well. There are
Yeah.
people if you say, "Look, I know you can't do this, but you're gonna have to do it in 2 weeks with a load of people staring at you." That's a
Mm.
lot of people. That's not everybody's idea of fun or
Yeah.
positive pressure, is it? So I think understand in terms of for people who want to get better at a certain thing, I think the first key thing is identify the singular problem. What is it? Because what is it you would like to get better at? I think a lot of people
Mm.
skirt around it or make it a big generic thing. Um, what is the thing that you would like to get better at? How do you think you can get the best out of yourself? What is them? What because some people enjoy learning songs. Some people enjoy sitting with a metronome all day. So if you're a song person, okay, well, what's a playlist of 10 tunes that utilizes that specific thing that you would like to get better at? learn those
Mm,
tunes then.
mm.
You know,
Yeah,
just I think learning how to channel your own personality into progress is really important because I think, and I've witnessed, especially when I was at uni, some people's approach was a direct contrast to what their natural process of improving was, you know,
yeah,
which I don't think gets the best out of yourself. Yeah, just understanding how to get the best out of yourself, I think, is really, really key.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like I've never been like going back to the lessons we did with Martin. Like, did you ever see his like his practice routine?
It's monster, man.
It's just it's like I look at it, I was like, it's like a laundry list of
But
like picking.
it's not it's not for me, that. It's it's
Same here. And I did try it, and to all credit to it, when I tried it for like 2 or 3 weeks, like my playing went up, but I couldn't mentally keep doing it because it was just too draining.
But he won't mind me saying this. Early on, I'll have been 18 when I first, 17, 18 when I first met Martin and, went through his practice. And I said, "But what's it for?" Which is an indication of where no, but indicator of where I'm at with the whole progress, the whole process-led, target-related thing. Being just so if you do all that and then what? You put the kettle on and then you just do it again tomorrow. I mean, what's it for? Is it for a
Yeah.
gig or is it so he obviously gets the best out of himself by knowing
Mm,
he's got a diligence and he's got targets that he can himself can meet that don't need any external gratification, which is brilliant.
yeah.
But
Mm,
I need it to be for a gig or for a tune or I need it to be for something.
yeah.
Otherwise,
The way yeah,
I couldn't maintain it. I couldn't
yeah.
do his routine the way he does it.
No, it's insane. But like you said, that's obviously what works for him. But the way that I viewed it is just like doing military drills.
Mm.
You're just like parading up and down the march. You're running the thing up and down. You're doing the sweepy thing. You're just doing it, doing it until you get called upon to do it, and it's just there. And that's what he kind of said to me, that's how he approaches it, and that's fine. Like,
I think there's a wider context here, though, in that I think if you think, I mean, because where are the calls coming from if you completely dedicate your energies? I think if you've got a finite amount of energy, I don't,
mm,
I'm just going to speak for myself here. If I spent 5 hours a day alternate picking, I
mm,
don't know how much of the rest of my day I would be able to use doing other things that I think are as equally that equally contribute to getting gigs, meeting people, getting those calls. It's such a multifaceted thing. Obviously, we're not talking about maintaining a career here. We're just talking about practicing.
mm,
But there's so many there's so many facets to being the guy on the gig and being the right person and everybody, all the people that you've already had on the show, on your podcast, and everybody's got their niche and their thing, and I think their playing is a good part of that, but it's not all of it
mm, yeah,
because of all the people that could be called for any gig that I get or anybody else gets, the fact that anybody on the list could play the material, it goes without saying. It's very
mm,
rarely, "Oh, don't call them because they can't do it." It's never that. It's, "Let's call them because I like hanging out with them," or, "I like
mm,
the extra they'll bring to this," or blah, blah. It's so yeah, I don't
yeah.
in terms of me personally, if I was to sit an alternate pick for 5 hours a day, I yeah, I I think I'd be really
Yeah,
good at it, but
yeah.
I don't have any use for it.
Okay, all
I've
right.
well, no, that's not true, but you know what I
I
mean.
was,
How
yeah, I
often
know
in
what
the
you mean.
moment is it like, "Oh my god, I'm now on that gig, and turns out I do need to play at 200 BPM this three-note per string run." That's never
Yeah,
happened to me.
yeah, yeah. No, I've not yet been called upon to do anything like that.
It's going to happen tomorrow now, isn't it, for both of us?
Maybe we're on the wrong gig. Maybe
That
we.
that race that Racer X tribute band that's waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
Do you know what? I had Yolanda Charles come on a couple of weeks ago,
Right.
and she's done this thing, and I've put it on my stories, I think, on Instagram, and she has a practice routine, 10 exercises, 3 minutes per exercise. You pick whatever it is that you want to do, and I was like, do you know what? I'll give that a go.
Mm.
And I'm only towards the end of week 2, and it's just having this thing there.
So it's like half an
That
hour a day, essentially, is
It's
it?
it's
Yeah.
it's it's half well, 35 minutes because you gotta fuck around with the metronome because there's some bits that are 80, some at 130, some
Mm.
whatever, and but it's half an hour every single day for 2 weeks, and it just helps. It's just there's like this little tiny foundation, and then you can just do whatever else you can on top of it,
Mm.
and I found that, although I feel like I'm contradicting myself because I don't like this regimented routine, just having this small little routine that I can do every day, and it's only half hour, or I can split it up into 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. Like I did one of them just before you came on now. I'm just sitting there for 3 minutes picking groups of 5 and tonics. Yeah, and that's it. That's it. And then
Love it.
you buzzed in. I was like, right, now, so I've ticked that off. I've done that for the day. I've just got 9 more to do. But I've just found it really useful just to kind of cement in certain things that are a little bit rusty in my playing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely plenty rusty in my playing that I could probably address, 100%.
Mm,
Um, finding finding the time amongst yeah, I I th I I could find the time. I could find the time.
yeah.
It's me trying to say that. I haven't got any time for that. That's not true.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely think the constant maintenance of just playing what I've got to play all the time, because I play all day, every day, nearly anyway, with
Yeah.
recording or listening or learning or gigging or um so yeah, I think I would struggle to have that, and it'd be something that I'd then not I'd feel guilty if I hadn't done it. You know, if I
Yeah.
thought like, right, I'm gonna do that, and then day 3 something comes in and I don't do it, it would be then it's then something I've not done. It would
Yeah.
become I think it would become a psychological negative for me rather than a positive.
Mm. Okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. The other thing, like, what? No, again. You touched on it a minute ago. Like, what do you think's weak in your playing?
How long have you got?
Oh, like I've seen you play, and
Um,
I would say that you're up there with some of the most technical players that I've seen.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I think my harmony, my immediate grasp of harmony could be better. Because I have no problem working it out and working out what I want to do and then improvising. But in the moment, if someone just put like some beast mode jazz style harmony on it, I'd probably
Mm.
not play at my best.
Okay.
Um, my things that I feel like you could be better on. I mean, the list is longer than the things I'm good at, definitely. I mean,
Okay.
you know, for instance, that working with Nick the other day, one
Mm.
piece came up, opened the thing, he picks up a mandolin. I can't play mandolin, you know,
Right.
and you think, where's he managed to find the time to do that? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Things that I think I would like to be better on. Mm, yeah, jazz harmony, I think, would be a big thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and finding
But
the time to really
is it
deep dive in that.
Yeah, but then I was gonna say, like, do you find that it's if you was to sit down and learn it, you'd probably be learning it, and I don't want to speak for you, but you'd be learning it for yourself rather than learning it for something that is required of you.
Yes, and as was very eloquently pointed out to me when I said to somebody else that it was a frustration that I didn't have that ability, um,
Mm.
I don't love listening to it. So I'm
Yeah.
already at a disadvantage in terms of if I don't listen to it, I don't love it, and
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit of a measure of excellence these days, that sort of thing. and I think
Mm.
I would like to be better at it, probably for that reason alone, rather than I'm gonna make a jazz record, because
Yeah.
I'd need to start listening to jazz records before I made a jazz record. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's that. You're absolutely right. The motivation behind it would be, which again, linking into the why haven't I predominantly am driven to do things because I need to do them. That's something
Mm.
that's never come up and never will. If somebody said to me, "You need to play like bebop on a gig," I would say,
Mm.
"No, you need to call somebody else," and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Alright. Well, I mean, I was gonna touch on jazz and jazz harmony and stuff, but, I remember there was I think we're guided so much by what people say on the internet and what we read and what we see online that it kind of certainly for me, it shaped how I would sit and play. But just like you, like, I didn't listen to jazz for fun. I didn't like, if I'm driving to a gig, I'm not putting jazz records on up until about 2 years ago,
okay.
and I've just found I'm just drawn like, I think it's such a broad term,
Mm,
but I
of
just I
course.
just started listening to stuff from, like, the '50s. I started listening to, like, early Miles Davis stuff, and I started listening to Wes Montgomery, and um, Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald, those 2 albums or those albums that they recorded together, and they really started to hit, and they started to land, and then when that happened, it's like, okay, well, then you can develop a tiny bit of vocabulary. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a jazz guitar player, but I've started to listen to it, and that's the first step. And when I started trying to learn it years ago, like, I wouldn't listen to it at all. And that's just a huge problem because
Well,
it's like trying
it's
to.
like it'd be like cooking food that you don't eat.
Mm,
How do you
exactly.
know
Yeah.
how do you know if it's gonna taste great to a lover of
Christ.
that food if you don't eat it?
Yeah.
You're
Christ,
shooting it
I hate aubergines, but here, try them.
exactly. Have you found subsequently to developing that listening habit and now it being part of your recreational listening that it has wormed its way into your playing?
Only very slightly, but I'm not like deep dive listening to jazz. I can listen to it for 20 minutes and then I've got to put something else on. So, but that's 20 minutes that I couldn't do earlier. Then, all right, I'm going to put
Okay.
something else. I'll put Soundgarden on or something. Um, but yeah, but if I sit down, like somebody once said to me ages ago, like they said, like, do you have a guitar that just sits in the living room or the lounge by the TV that you just pick up and noodle on? I was like, yeah, like it's a shitty old 70s Strat that the frets are fucked, it's buzzing all over the place. He said, right, when you're playing it, yeah, when you play it, pay attention to what you play, like unconsciously. And I've started to notice that some of these little jazzy phrases are starting to come into my playing, just almost unconsciously.
Yeah, I use a lot of the chromaticisms and things, but that's predominantly because I've come at it through a rock fusion thing. If sort of jazz is
Yeah,
over here and rock fusion's over there, and the journey of it before was jazz into rock, I've definitely come at it from the rock end,
yeah,
but it's definitely
yeah,
not jazz phrasing. But
yeah.
I was just imagining what I would play when I noodle about. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I find that interesting. Like, yeah,
Mm.
what you play when you're not really like, there's no purpose to my playing. I've just been given a guitar. What comes out?
It's like who you are when you're on your own. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, yeah, and I found it really interesting. But that's another thing. Like, rock fusion is something I don't ever listen to. Like, it's never ever been a part of my listening repertoire or vocab.
It wouldn't have been for me naturally, I don't think. But when I went to uni, I went to the ICMP, and
Mm,
Martin, as we've spoken about, was there, and they put those records on in class, and I remember just thinking, "This is like something from space.
yeah.
What is this?" Robin Ford doing the "Help the Poor" solo and all of that sort of thing, just unreal, man.
Well, do
Um,
you call that fusion?
well, it's got notes that aren't pentatonic position 1 in it,
By default, it's fusion.
so, yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I listen to Robin Ford, Larry Carlton, those people. I would just say that that's like, I wouldn't call it fusion. Like fusion, I would say is Scott Henderson and
Of course,
like
and
really, really
and
obscure
Frank
outside kind of
yeah,
rock.
Frank Gambale and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, monster. But
Yeah.
I think yeah, you could probably call that harmonically aware rock, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. That was but
Grown
it
up
was
rock.
yeah, eloquent. Yeah, with sort of
Mm.
musical eloquence, you know. But that was definitely my gateway to sort of more harmonically aware rock music rather than it being, "We're definitely in E minor, play where the dots are, play as fast as you
Yeah.
can."
Yeah.
Um,
Super glue your finger to the 12th fret because 'cause you're not moving.
oh, yeah. Just put a capo on there. Mm.
The other thing I want to touch on is that what do you think is missing from either from music or from like I don't know how embedded you are in music education, but do you think there's anything missing from like guitar playing and we see stuff we see on social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff?
I think the problem with this debate is we now there is everything everywhere.
Yeah,
So, if you have the diligence to know what you want to look for, know what you want to find, and look for it, it's out there in a way that it's never been before. It wasn't
yeah,
there when I started learning. I mean, and I'm not an old person, you know, but I learned with stuff on CD and like pausing the CD and then playing, you know,
yeah.
trying
A
to,
being it and
yeah, yeah. Whereas now, you everything you can possibly want to learn is on there. What it is, it's getting past the clickbaity billion views bullshit that's on the top and finding
yeah,
that video of that person on the internet that's only got 20 views or whatever, that's someone who really knows what they're talking about going,
yeah,
it goes like this, or yeah. So I think it can be very. I think there's a element of illusion that I think's negative, and there's an element of permanence that I think's very negative. In that every gig you do now, that most people are just filming on their phone, and
mm,
I definitely have felt in the moment like you aren't as free as when this is going to happen once. We're all here in the room, and when it's happened, it was a moment in time and it's gone.
yeah,
The constant permanence of things, I think, is a real negative in terms of how you would play on gigs and how it's perceived, but also the how things are put up and I can't remember that guitar player's name. He just had a real scandal online. Levi Clay outed him. The guy that
oh,
robbed all the stuff.
Guillermo,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember, Del
But
Toro, I can't remember his name,
yeah,
something
you
like
know,
that.
millions and millions of views playing tunes that he's not written, that he's not even playing because he's playing
Yeah,
one note at a time on Pro Tools. And unfortunately, I think the danger is that there is room for validation of that. He got far more successful not playing the guitar as a guitar player than I ever have actually playing it. And
yeah,
I've always, when I've recorded or done any videos, one of my absolute non-negotiable behaviors and lines in the sand with myself is if I can't play this in a single run through or on a
yeah,
gig, it's not making a video
yeah,
because I
yeah,
would feel that it's not true. Like it's a lie to myself. Um, You know what I
mm,
mean? I would be kidding myself that thinking, "Right,
yeah,
I'll just patch in for that, and I'll patch in for that, and I'll patch in for that." It's not true. And if you're just making a record for record's sake, absolutely, you can do that. And a lot of the best records in the '80s are made like that. But if you're then clipping it together with a picture of you looking very informal in your bedroom on the
mm,
guitar, it's an insincere projection, isn't it? It's not you and people believe that, I think. That's the problem with modern social media is things are portrayed as offhand and casual and just thrown together and they're perfect, and I think that could put a lot of pressure on young players or people who don't know, because
mm,
if you're old and jaded and you know the vibe, you can just go, "Well, I mean, that's been quantized and he's not actually playing that, and I mean that's just impossible what he's playing," you know.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
some of those videos on Instagram, you can see guys do a tapping run and then they'll do something and you can hear a whammy bar bend and he's not got a guitar with
yeah,
a whammy bar on. And
yeah,
it's just like, well, that's not, yeah. But if you
Yeah.
don't know that, and if you've not yet got to the point that you know that, that would be, I don't know how off-putting that would be as a young person. You know, you think, "Well, I can't do that, so I'm not gonna bother." I don't know.
Yeah, that's I've never thought of that. I mean, I think that's interesting. I like the I like the fact that we can get hold of anything. Like if I get dumped on a gig last minute and I'm struggling and there's no charts and I'm like, right, okay, I'm sorry, it's YouTube. I'm going to go on and see I'm going to download some charts. I'll go on and get whatever
Mm,
I can to help me get through the gig, whatever needs to be done. Um, but in the opposite side, like if you want to learn something that's kind of a little bit obscure, there's bound to be a video for it. But I think there's something missing in the put the song on, see if I can figure it out by ear. Like there's a lot of almost instant gratification. I want to learn this
well
song. Bang, there it is. There's the
well,
video. There's the tabs.
you're bypassing a key skill, aren't you? It's the
Yeah,
give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach a man to fish and he eats
yeah,
for a lifetime. It's that.
yeah.
You're bypassing also, I think you it changes the barrier to entry in that I think guitar players who got to a certain level 50 years ago, 20 years ago, there was a level of effort required because you had to put the effort in to even get to the point where you could do those things. Whereas now,
Mm,
a lot of it's so it's an empowering resource. But I think trying to think where I'm going to go, where I was going with that. It's I think it's so the internet is everything, and I think it's all of the positives and all of the negatives and all of the things in between. And I think your accountability and your awareness of what it is that you're looking at, be it news or
mm,
whatever, but even in music, you're just being aware of what you're looking at and how real it is, I think's really, really key. But you're right that I've had gigs call in and you can learn that and you think, right, it's tomorrow, shit. And then you'll find
yeah.
some kid on YouTube nailing it and you're like,
Mm,
excellent, that saved me a day.
brilliant. What I think I've observed is I think people nowadays are able to reach a technical level so much faster than people could back in the 70s and 80s. I think that's
Mm,
maybe what you're alluding to. But I agree that there's something that is being just there's a couple of steps that people are just jumping over. Like one of my students came in, and I always do this when he comes in. He plugs his guitar in, he tunes up, and I always turn my back to him, and I start bringing programs up on the computer, and I'm listening to what he's playing. Like this is
mm.
what you've been doing over the week, and he picked. He just started doing Eruption. I'm like, okay, like all right, that's what you've been working on. We're still kind of struggling with bar chords, but you've obviously gone down a bit of a Van Halen rabbit hole, and that's cool, and I think that's great. Um, but I'm really wary of starting people down that route before you can just sit on a B flat minor chord and just let it groove.
I had this exact debate with somebody not that long ago, a friend of mine who teaches at a music uni, and I basically voiced exactly as you said. You know,
Mm,
um, and he said, "Yeah, but their goals are different." I was like, "Well, what do you mean the goals are different?" He said, "Well, your goal was to play in bands and to be a your goal when you were a kid, you heard bands, you listened to bands, you heard guitar players in bands, and you wanted to emulate them. The
mm,
generation now want to record a 15-second Insta clip and it be wicked."
yeah,
And they wanna do that in the easiest possible and fastest possible way. There's a lot of players who aren't interested in going to a rehearsal room in the
yeah,
rain in Birmingham on a Tuesday
yeah.
with you know, it's not everybody's
Lugging
idea of
lugging
fun.
a Fender Twin up the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best thing ever when I was a kid, but I don't know if that's a thing. Of course it
Yeah,
is, but in terms of it was the only thing when I remember that if you wanted to play, that's what you had to do, whereas it's not
yeah,
now. And, being good on Instagram, I think's a different skill because I I'm I I I'm not in the top billion guitar players on Instagram, and I don't even won't even pretend to myself that I could even be. But my skill sets, what is on there is a direct representation of what I actually do. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a different focus entirely to get that sort of turbo impressive, I'm gonna play this for 15 seconds thing, and I think that's what the internet's definitely changed in guitar playing, is a lot of it
Yeah.
is hunting for that short that people are gonna click over and you're playing a billion miles an hour, or you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like going back to that, the guy who was, I can't remember his name, and I keep mixing his name up with is he Spanish? The Spanish director, the horror director, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, it's
But
not
his
him.
name sounds like that. It's not him, but
Yeah.
it sounds like that. Somebody just said to me, whenever you're seeing videos like this online, just say, maybe, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe it's AI. Maybe he's doing it. Maybe it could be. Yeah. And I said that to some of my students. When you see some of these people playing, maybe,
Mm.
that's it. Maybe. Um, Amp or modeler?
Totally depends on what I'm doing.
All
I
right.
I
Okay.
use I've gone a lot into the modeling route recently. Basically, I'm purely necessity driven on gear, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of people think that's really cold and boring, but I'm I'm not fussed either way. I've been lucky enough to play the O2 Arena with a 100-watt tube amp on wedges, and that was
Yeah.
one of the best things I've ever done ever. But I've also had a full wicked digital rig in stereo in ears and played in the Royal Albert Hall, and that's been amazing as well. So
Yeah.
it's horses for courses for me.
Yeah.
It's what does the gig require, and sometimes what do the logistics of the gig require.
Yeah.
Um, the Go West gig's a great example. I've got 60 individual sounds programmed for that.
Wow.
Um, and also,
Clean, dirty.
yeah, clean one, clean
Yeah.
slightly reverby, clean
Yeah.
a little bit wet. No, but again, going down the modeler route for that, there are things that I would have been quite logistically complicated for me to do if I'd have gone the old school actual route, because all of those iconic 80s clean sounds that are used on their
Mm.
records is a guitar straight into the desk. That
Yeah.
kind of sprang, that sprang
Yeah,
as
yeah.
with a slow, with a kind of slightly slower attack compression that goes that
Yep, yeah,
you're not getting that out of a tube amp because it's not a tube amp.
yeah,
Whereas on the modelers, you turn all the preamps off and you put a bit of
yeah,
compressor on, and then I've got a DI'd. I've got that.
yeah,
So for me to do exactly the same thing that I do on that gig, let's say, that I'm doing with the modeler, and it's in full stereo, and I've got, yeah, I would probably need at least 3 amps in a wet dry. I'd need an AB switch going to a DI rig with a separate pedal board with ambience on. It'd be a nightmare.
mm, yeah,
It'd be a nightmare. So the
yeah,
modeler's stunning, and also I use the Boss one, and I've got all my sounds programmed on my phone. I've got it Bluetooth, so it's got a
okay,
Bluetooth app. So there's been times on fly gigs where I don't even take. They've hired one and in sound check,
yeah,
I open my phone and Bluetooth
yeah.
the whole gig to it, and it's done.
Wow. What's the
Whereas
boss one you use?
GT1000, um, and how many times have you done fly gigs where, you know, this happens to me all the time with because the Tony Monreal gig's a great example of that. Has to be amp. That's for me. That is
Yeah,
in the moment. A lot of it's improvisational. We're on wedges. It's being in the room. It's not about recreating, it's about creating. And I think actually tube amps and amps in general and using your ears in the room that everybody's in is key. Whereas on other gigs where you're recreating and
yeah,
that precision is, and the definition with which you can clarify your own performance in in basically the reciting of what you've done before. Um,
mm,
that's where the modeler's the best thing. Whereas if
yeah,
I'm trying to create and it's a more of an interaction of discovery, I'm still not. I still wouldn't choose a modeler. But how many times
okay.
do you on a fly gig get, you go to the south of Italy to do a festival and they wheel out a Fender Twin that's not been serviced since 1973 and the tubes are all gone and it's got mold on it and it sounds
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's pros and
yeah,
cons. There's pros and cons,
yeah,
but it's literally what is best for each thing.
yeah. Last question, and then I'll let you go. Do you like your playing?
No.
Oh, come on.
No, no, well, I don't surprise me. I know what I'm
Okay.
gonna I know what I'm gonna do, and
Yeah.
also, I think what I hear in my own playing is all the things I can't do, and all the things I would like to do better, and all the things that I haven't quite nailed, and that's just the way my
Mm.
personality works, I think. So, I just hear whereas if I could hear me not as me, you'd hear all the
Yeah.
things that you can do and all the
Yeah.
all the all the spontaneously little cool things, and you think, "Oh, whereas I don't hear my playing like that. So
Okay.
I'll even hear things that other people will say sound great, and I'll think, "Yeah, but I know I played that because that was a workaround because I probably would have done that, or I would have liked to have done that, and I didn't feel confident enough to do it in the moment, so I did that." Or yeah. Yeah, I don't yeah,
Okay.
I'm not yeah. Is that a rare answer? I mean, I'm
No,
not a
do
massive
you know what?
fan.
I've only asked. I keep meaning to. I should really ask it of everybody, but I've only asked it of a handful of people. Most people say no.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not.
Sam Bell. I had Sam Bell on ages ago, and like fucking phenomenal player. Like,
Yeah.
I listened to him, and it's like borderline perfect. And I was like, "Do you like your playing?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Damn." Yeah.
Well, I'm
And I
not
think over the
him,
last yeah,
so
I
but,
think over the last year or so, when I listen to my playing, I'm enjoying it more because I'm letting less of my ego play and more of my personality.
oh, well, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, absolutely, yeah. If you can get yeah. If you're just at the point where you think, "I'm representing who I am in the moment in this," yeah,
Mm,
that's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
yeah.
Um,
But I do
yeah.
hear when I hear back, I do hear all the flaws, and like you said, like you touched on it beautifully, like saying I'm hearing the things that I avoided that, and I put a workaround in because I can't do
Well,
that.
I know the decision. I know my working out. You know, like if you see a beautiful painting by somebody, you don't see all the paper that's in the wastebasket of their attempts and what they thought they
Yeah,
were gonna
yeah,
do. Whereas as players of our own playing, we all know that. I know what I would like to have done. I know what I was maybe going for. I it I know the working out. I can see my working out. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so when I hear it, I hear what I was thinking, and so, you can't listen to yourself objectively, can you? You can only
mm,
hear it through the fact that you own it and you create it. So, yeah. I don't know, I
yeah.
don't know I don't know of many players actually that would say, "I absolutely love my own playing." I don't know, is that a thing? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. Like, I wouldn't say that I love my playing. Like, I think I hear all of my flaws. I think my time needs to be better. I rush a lot. Um, so I need to take a deep breath and just kind of relax when I start. And I feel tension, like tension as well. That's another thing that I find that I play on the balls of my feet sometimes, and
Wow.
I just need to sit the fuck back. And that, of course, that pushes me forward. I rush, and yeah,
Right.
and that's only happened since I stopped drinking.
Ah!
When I was drinking, I was probably a little bit more behind the beat.
Do you think your playing changed in its rhetoric pre and post that?
Yes, my approach to playing when I was drinking, I would always have 1 or 2 drinks just to kind of calm my nerves down, and then everything would be a little bit more laid back. When I started playing completely sober, it was like my first ever gig. Like, the first ever gig I did sober was like my first ever gig. Like, I was just shoegazing for 90 minutes. And I was like, "I
Wow.
can't." Like, the anxiety was through the roof. I couldn't relax. It was tense. It was pretty horrendous. And I was like, "I've got to get through this. How am I gonna get through this?" I actually went and had therapy, and I said
Right.
to the therapist, like, "By the way, I'm also experiencing this," and she said, "You've got to start looking up. Just look up. Pick a spot at the back of the room, like those green exit signs. Try and find one of those and have that as a reference, and just get your head up and look." And when that happened, I then start to look at people. And when you start to look at people, then you start to like connect. And when you start to connect, you start to feel a little bit more relaxed. And it was,
It's
but
bringing yourself out of yourself, isn't it?
yeah, it
Rather than
was,
being in your anxiety, it's like
yeah.
yeah,
And there was a great quote from Marty Friedman. He said something to the tune of, "Look, you're not going to play the gig perfectly. So what you should do is try and put a show on so that people at least enjoy kind of a spectacle, and kind of let the licks, just let them, like, so long as it's not a fucking train wreck, you're putting on a show as well. It's not just you playing notes. You got to put on a show." And I think you mentioned that, like, legs far apart, fireworks going off, putting on a show, and sort of adopting that as well was a little bit, uh, it was new. Like putting the guitar behind the head. I trying to do that dead sober was like, oh,
love
like,
it,
is anyone gonna get anything from this? And it's like, no, they are. All right, fucking, they love it. Brilliant. Like, I'm playing like
amazing.
shit, but they're loving it. Mm.
So how
But
many
yeah,
gig how long was that process to get to the point where you were comfortable again gigging?
about a year. About a
Wow,
year. Yeah. And I think that the first, it was a festival I did with my old Pearl Jam tribute. And we were like first band on. They had like loads of backing track bands on first. It was like 2 in the afternoon. No one had anything to drink, and it was like, "Right, we're gonna have to go out and put on a show." And I was like, I literally felt like I was peeling out of my skin to go and play this show, and it was one of the best shows I think I'd performed in a very long time.
amazing.
And I was like, "Right, I can do this." And once I'd done it, I can do it. Now it's like I can wander up and down the ego pit. I can guitar behind the head. I can do the upside down tappy thing. Whatever
Well,
needs to be done.
like so many of these things, it's never about or it's very rarely about proving to other people, it's about proving it to yourself. Like,
Mm,
Can
yeah,
I do this? Am I comfortable doing it?" It's never because it's never about other people usually.
yeah, yeah. It was an experience. It was good, but yeah, I fell in love with music again, which was a great experience.
Wow.
Mm.
What as a listener, as a performer, both?
Both, yeah. Like having to listen to stuff kind of sober, but like, I think more as a performer, because I think I'd always suffered socially, anxiety. I was always quite quiet, and I was
Yeah,
always kind of at the back. People would always kind of ignore me, and that came out in my playing early days. And
right.
yeah, trying to break out of that. Like, alcohol was the thing I'd use to break out of that. And then when that's taken away, you've then got to do something else.
Yeah. Coffee.
So yeah. Yeah. So listen, David, I'm going to leave it there. My phone has started beeping, which means my children are either up. Oh no, maybe not. But yeah, I'm just going to let you go. I think I've taken up too much of your time already.
Absolutely,
But
ma mate. It's
mate,
been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
it's been lovely to have you, and all the best. And we will speak soon.
Absolutely, man. Have a good one.
You too.